Is it okay? Okay. So, as we have discussed earlier, that this neuron is basically made up of two main parts. One is cell body. Now, which one is the cell body? Now, as you can see that this one is generally referred to as the cell body of the neuron. This particular part, okay, this particular part is the cell body. Now, as I told you that it is quite similar to a cell. So এর যে characteristics of the cell body is simply similar to a cell. I hope you know that a cell is covered by a membrane known as cell membrane. Okay, it is also known as plasma lemma. So the outer covering is the cell membrane, or it is also known as plasma lemma. Now this cell membrane generally it covers the cytoplasm of the cell body. Now this cytoplasm, we can simply say this cytoplasm is known as neuroplasm, since it is found within the neuron. The cytoplasm that is generally found within the cell body of the neuron, it is generally known as what? It is known as neuroplasm. Now within this neuroplasm, generally a dense nucleus, centrally located nucleus is generally found. Dense and সেন্ট্রালি লোকেটেড নিউক্লিয়াস ইজ জেনারেলি ফাউন্ড। আমি আগেই বলেছি যে এর ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক্স একটা সেলের মতো। যেমন সেলের বাইরে একটা মেমব্রেন দেখতে পাই, এখানেও দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে সেল মেমব্রেন অ্যান্ড প্লাজমা লেমা জেনারেলি it is the outer covering, and generally it covers the cytoplasm, which is generally known as neuroplasm, and within the neuroplasm a dense and centrally located nucleus is generally found. Not only that, within the cytoplasm or within the neuroplasm, several cell organelles are generally found. একটা সেলের মধ্যে আমরা ডিফারেন্ট সেল অর্গানেলস পেয়ে থাকি। হোয়াট আর দে জেনারেলি? ইউ ক্যান সে মাইটোকন্ড্রিয়া, you can say Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum. So several kind of cell organelle are found within the neuroplasm. So সব রকম সেল অর্গানেলও আমরা দেখতে পাই, but you should remember one thing, that centriole is generally absent. Centriole is generally absent, and that is the reason we can say that a neuron can never divide due to absence of centriole. Okay, so centriole is absent, so neuron or a nerve cell can never divide due to absence of centriole. So centriole is generally absent in neuron. You should remember this thing. Anyway, we'll find that ribonucleoprotein granules are even found within the cytoplasm of this cell body. Ribonucleoprotein, or in short RNP, ribonucleoprotein granules are found within the cytoplasm or neuroplasm of the cell body, and they are generally known as Nissl granules. Measles granules, fiber-like structure, okay, are even found that provides structural framework to the cell body. They are generally known as neurofibril. So what is the function of this neurofibril? The function of this neurofibril is that it provides structural framework, okay, framework. What is the function of these measles granules? Basically, it is believed that they synthesizes protein. Okay, they synthesizes protein. Now you can see that uh, basically different processes have emerged from the cell body. Now you'll find numerous short and branch processes has emerged from this cell body. Now these short and branch processes, they are generally known as dendron. So these are known as dendron. Now we'll find that this dendron, they are further they further get divided into several branches, as you can see. So these short branches are known as dendrites. এগুলোকে ডেনড্রাইটস বলছে। তাহলে যে প্রসেসেস গুলো আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি সেল বডি থেকে ইমার্জ করছে, দে আর বেসিক্যালি নোন এজ ডেনড্রন, অ্যান্ড ডেনড্রনস when it further gets divided into several short branches, they are known as dendrites. Now what is the function of this dendron? Let me tell you. Now dendron, it receives stimulus. So dendron basically it receives what? It receives stimulus. Okay, it helps to receive stimulus, and this stimulus is then carried to the cell body. Now what is the function of cell body? Now this cell body then conducts the stimulus to the axon. I hope you can understand that the long and unbranched elongated process is generally known as axon. So this is basically axon. এই পোর্শনটা হচ্ছে আমরা বলে থাকি axon. Okay, so cell body then conducts the stimulus to axon, and the function of axon that it conducts stimulus in the form of nerve impulse. Now let us find out the different parts of axon. Axon generally emerges from the cell body. Now the region from where axon emerges, এই জায়গা থেকে দেখতে পাচ্ছি সেল বডির এই জায়গা থেকে axon ইমার্জ করছে। সো বেসিক্যালি এই পোর্শনটাকে বলা হয় axon hillock. This portion is known as axon hillock. Okay, so axon hillock is the region from where axon emerges from the cell body. Okay, axon emerges from the cell body. Now within the axon, the cytoplasm is known as exoplasm. দেখো, it is very simple. এই axonএর মধ্যে cytoplasm দেখবো, and basically this cytoplasm is known as what? Exoplasm. এই সেল বডির মধ্যে সাইটোপ্লাজমটাকে কি বলি? Basically it is known as neuroplasm. So it is not different. It is generally named according to their location. সেল বডির মধ্যে নিউরোপ্লাজম, axonএর মধ্যে সেটাকে বলা হচ্ছে exoplasm. Now this exoplasm is generally covered by a membrane. It is known as axolemma. I hope এখানে বুঝতে পারছো যে সেল মেমব্রান which is also known as plasma lemma, তাহলে axonএর বাইরের মেমব্রানকেও বলা হচ্ছে axolemma. axonএর বাইরের মেমব্রানকেও বলছি axolemma. It is not different. Anyway, আমরা দেখব যে outside axonema একটা ফ্যাটের আমরা লেয়ার পেয়ে থাকি, a layer of ফ্যাট গেটস ডিপোজিটেড। এই লেয়ারটা হচ্ছে ফ্যাটের লেয়ার, ঠিক আছে। আমি এটাকে একটু ডার্ক করে দিচ্ছি তাহলে বুঝতে সুবিধা হবে। অ্যান্ড ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ ইয়োর বুক ইন ফ্রন্ট অফ ইউ, আই হোপ ইউ ক্যান ফলো ইয়োর বুক, তাহলে অসুবিধা হবে না। নাও this is basically a layer of fat which gets deposited just outside the axonema, ঠিক আছে। এই লেয়ার অফ ফ্যাটটাকে জেনারেলি বলা হয় মায়েলিন শীথ। এই লেয়ার অফ ফ্যাটটাকে কি বলা হয়? মায়েলিন শীথ বলা হয়। নাও আউটসাইড দ্য মায়েলিন শীথ, বেসিক্যালি outside myelin sheath you will find another membrane which covers this myelin sheath, and that is the outermost covering, and that outermost covering is generally known as neurolemma. So neurolemma, it is the outermost covering. Neurolemma, it is the outermost covering that actually covers the layer of the fat, that is the myelin sheath. Now as you can see that this myelin sheath is not continuous throughout the length of the axon. এই myelin sheath কিন্তু continuous নয়, it is simply present at regular interval. It gets deposited, the fat get deposited at regular interval. It is not continuous throughout the length of the axon. So basically the space in between two myelin sheath, a space টা, as you can see, the space in between two myelin sheath, okay, this space is known as node of Ranvier. আচ্ছা, এত যখন বললাম তখন আরেকটু বলবো। বেসিক্যালি this neuron is of two different types. জেনে রাখো, one is known as medullated or myelinated neuron, and the other one is known as non-myelinated neuron. Acha. So what is myelinated neuron? The neuron where myelin sheath is present. Neuron where myelin sheath is generally present. And what is non-myelinated neuron? We can say that a neuron where myelin sheath is absent. Myelin sheath is generally absent. It is known as non-myelinated neuron. Myelinated neuron are also known as medullated neuron, and non-myelinated neuron is also known as non-medullated neuron. So what is the function of this myelin sheath? What is the function of this layer of fat that get deposited outside the axonema? Okay, we'll discuss the function of myelin sheath. তার আগে বলো যে এই যে স্ট্রাকচারটাতে কোনো রকম কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করার আছে কিনা। তার আগে আরেকবার বলে দিচ্ছি যে as you can see this dendron, it receives what? It helps to receive stimulus. Dendron receives stimulus and this stimulus is then carried to the cell body. So cell body, it acts as a junction between the dendron and the axon. Cell body, it acts as a junction between the you can say, just hold on for a second. My baby, okay, she got into the room, ভেতরে ঢুকে পড়েছে গান করতে করতে। এনিওয়ে, আচ্ছা সো ডেনড্রন, ইট হেল্পস ইন রিসিভিং স্টিমুলাস। বুঝতেই পারছো, ডেনড্রন স্টিমুলাস রিসিভ করবে। ডেনড্রন থেকে এই স্টিমুলাস জেনারেলি আমরা দেখব যে it is then carried to the cell body. So cell body te ashbe. Cell body, what it will do, it will simply conduct this stimulus or transmit this stimulus to the axon, and axon is going to conduct this stimulus. It's going to carry this stimulus. So cell body, it acts as a junction between this dendron and axon. You can simply say that this is the function of cell body. Cell body, what is the function of cell body? We can simply say it receives stimulus from dendron and it conducts the stimulus to the axon, or it transmits the stimulus to the axon. Axon generally conducts the stimulus, dendron receive the stimulus. So this is the function, this is the function of different part of the axon. ঠিক আছে, কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করার হলে জিজ্ঞেস করবে। জেনারেলি দেখো, ইট ইজ বিলিভ, যদি একটু ডিটেলসে যাই, আমাদের তো খুব ডিটেলসে সত্যি এনসিআরটিতে নেই, ইউ অলসো নো দ্যাট। এনিওয়ে, যদি খুব ডিটেলসে গিয়ে মানে ডিসকাস করা যায়, বেসিক্যালি দিজ নিজেল গ্র্যানিউলস আর মডিফাইড, ইট ইজ বিলিভ দ্যাট দিজ আর মডিফাইড রাইবোসোম। ওকে, modified ribosome. Now what is the function of ribosome in a cell? Yes, so as I've already discussed, that basically what is the function of these nasal granules is a protein. This synthesizes protein. Yes, bolo bolo Swan cells, yes, thank you, তুমি মনে করিয়ে দিলে। ওকে, Swan cells, ওকে, দেখে নাও, basically specialized cells are just found over here in just outside the myelin sheath, and or you can simply say in between the myelin sheath and in between the neurolemma, isn't it? I hope it is given right out there, right? So these are known as Swan cells. দেখো, বেসিক্যালি Swan cells এর ফাংশন কিন্তু কোনো বইয়ে সেই অ্যাজ সাচ ডিসকাস করা থাকে না। তো আমি তোমাকে আপাতত এইটুকু বলতে পারি, দিস Swan cells আর আ টাইপ অফ, এটা মানে আমি জাস্ট তোমাকে একটা ইনফরমেশন দিচ্ছি। রাইট নাও আই এম নট গোইং টু এক্সপ্লেন ইট টু ইউ because it's not explained in NCERT. Anyway, I'm just giving you an information. You can collect that information. That is, it is a kind of neuroglia. এটা বলা যেতে পারে এটা kind of neuroglia. And the function of these Schwann cells or these neuroglia is that it produces this layer of fat known as myelin sheath. Myelin sheath. Okay, is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes sir, yes.
Okay, আচ্ছা, আর কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করার আছে? জিজ্ঞেস করুন। Oh, acha, I am really sorry, I forgot, the terminal part of the axon is known as axon terminal. ঠিক আছে, the terminal part is generally known as axon terminal, and the terminal part is generally branched. As you can see, the whole axon throughout its length is unbranched, but the terminal part is generally, it forms branches, and these branches, okay, is generally known as collaterals. Okay, so it gives a brush like structure. That is why it is even known as terminal brush. Is it clear?
Yes sir.
Okay, আচ্ছা, তাহলে এখানে বলার কিছু নেই, শুধু আই এম গোইং টু ডিসকাস this myelin sheath. Okay, I'm going to discuss the function of this myelin sheath. So I'm just rubbing this part. শুধু লিখে রাখো, তোমার হয়তো কাজে লাগবে, অ্যাজ আই নো দ্যাট জেনারেলি দ্য ফাংশন অফ মায়োলিন শিথ ইজ নট ডিসকাসড ইন দিস এনসিআরটি, ওকে, বাট জেনে রাখো, একবারে যখন পড়ছি বা আমরা ডিসকাস করছি তো জেনে রাখতে আমাদের অসুবিধা নেই। এনিওয়ে, মায়োলিন শিথ, myelin sheath. Okay, first and foremost, this myelin sheath is basically, it's a layer of fat, isn't it? It's a layer of fat. Now, fat is a bad conductor of, you can say, electricity, isn't it? Fat, it is basically a bad conductor of electricity, isn't it? Okay, now the function of this axon, the function of axon is to carry nerve impulse. We can say that it is generally carried in the form of electrical impulse. So nerve impulse is conducted by axon in the form of electrical impulse. Is it okay? এটা বোঝা গেছে? এই axon দিয়ে nerve impulse conduction হয়, and this nerve impulse, how it is generally carried? It is generally carried in the form of electrical impulse. So we'll discuss how it is carried or how it is conducted. We'll discuss that later on, পরে আসছি, কিন্তু আপাতত এটা জানবো যে it is generally carried in the form of electrical impulse. So basically ধরে নাও এটা একটা নিউরন, and let this be another neuron. Okay, let this be another neuron. So একটা নিউরন থেকে বা একটা নিউরন দিয়ে একটা ইলেকট্রিক্যাল ইম্পালস কন্ডাকশন হচ্ছে, আর একটা নিউরন দিয়েও ইলেকট্রিক্যাল ইম্পালস কন্ডাকশন হচ্ছে পাশাপাশি। ধরে নিচ্ছে এই দুটো নিউরন পাশাপাশি রয়েছে, আর দুটো নিউরন দিয়ে এই নার্ভ ইম্পালস উইচ ইজ জেনারেলি ক্যারিড ইন দ্য ফর্ম অফ ইলেকট্রিক্যাল ইম্পালস, তো আমরা দেখতে পাবো যে এই দুটো নিউরনের মধ্যে দিয়ে নার্ভ ইম্পালস কন্ডাকশন হচ্ছে। সো দুটো সিগন্যাল, ইলেকট্রিক্যাল ইম্পালস আর দুটো সিগন্যাল যেন মিশে না যায়, মানে দিস ইলেকট্রিক্যাল সিগন্যাল generally it is necessary that it should not get mixed up, এটা যেন মিক্স না হয়ে যায়। তো এটা যেন মিক্স না হয় সেটা কে প্রিভেন্ট করছে? অবভিয়াসলি the layer of fat, that is myelin sheath, which is present just outside the axolemma. It prevents mixing of nerve impulse flowing through two different neurons. So you can simply write that it prevents mixing of nerve impulse. In bracket you can write down electrical impulse flowing through two different neurons, flowing through two different neurons. Is it clear? Since fat is actually a bad conductor of electricity, so that is the reason that these electrical signal don't get mixed up. Is it okay? Not only that, this layer of fat, it generally provides nutrition. It is also one of the most important function. Fat stores energy. So you can simply say that it provides nutrition and energy. We can say that it provides nutrition and energy to the neuron, to the nerve cell. So this is the second function. This is the first one. And one more thing. In case of myelinated nerve, it is found that nerve impulse is generally conducted very fast. Non-myelinated নিউরনে যদি নার্ভ ইম্পালস কন্ডাকশন ডিসকাস করি তাহলে দেখব যে সেখানে নার্ভ ইম্পালস কন্ডাকশন খুব স্লো হয়। there is a reason behind it. If we'll get the opportunity we will discuss why it is so, কেন আমরা পরে এটা ডিসকাস করতে পারি। বাট আপাতত you can write down the third function, that it helps in rapid movement of rapid conduction of nerve impulse. So the third function is that myelinated nerve or myelinated neuron, it helps in rapid conduction. It helps in rapid conduction of nerve impulse. Okay.